What is up, guys? It's your boy obbldude. Today, we're going to be doing kind of a little bit of an experiment in this video. So we're going to be doing two different mining runs today. I got 100 ped in total right now, 50 ped for one run and 50 ped for the second run. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to do the first run where we're going to stand still and just mine. We're just not even going to move. We're just going to mine 50 ped in one spot. Terrible idea. Don't do this. I've actually done this once before. I'll kind of touch on that in a minute. But the second run, we're just going to mine like we normally would in any other video. Right now, we're on LA 59, the same land area that we usually mine on when we do videos. So we're not in any kind of different spot, and we're going to be doing both mining runs on this one land area. Now, the reason why I decided to do this, which as I kind of explain everything, I'm just going to start dropping probes. So what kind of made me think of this and to do this was I'm still getting comments, even to this day, of people telling me that I'm wasting time running around mining when I could just stand in one spot and keep mining over and over and it doesn't make a difference. Now, I've been told this for probably 5 or 6 years now, pretty much ever since I started playing Entropia. I think I don't fully remember because I haven't checked the comments on that video in like a while, but I think even after I did my Noob's Ultimate Guide to Mining video like 5 or 6, 7 years ago, maybe now. I was getting comments even back then like, hey, you don't even need to run around. You can just stand put and just keep mining. And like 5 or 6 years ago, when I first heard this, I was like, okay, let me put it to the test. I was gonna do a video on it. And the video was like 10 or 15 minutes. It wasn't very interesting. It was a giant disaster, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know why multiple people are saying the same thing. Um and I don't know if it's just a troll. My guess is that people are trolling. My guess is that anyone saying that, they're just trolling. They have to be, because it just doesn't make any sense. But I was like, you know what? I did this like 5 or 6 years ago. It didn't go well. Let me try it again. And if it doesn't go well again, we can kind of put this theory to rest where, you know, can you stand in mine? And, will it work? The answer is no. Now, I know some of you are probably going to be like, well, you missed the first hit. If you actually hit it and got a hit, then you would keep getting hits. So I'm almost tempted, like halfway through this, which we're already down to 30 ped. Like this part only takes like 5 minutes. It's pretty insane. I think we'll do a couple more drops and then we'll move and see if we can get a hit. And then we'll just continuously do it there. But I'm telling you, I've done this 2 or 3 times just because whenever I'm told things, I'm like, hey, let's try it. Let's see. You never know. But something didn't sit right with me when it came to that in the first place. And I was like, yeah, no, I think they're either trolling or they're just mad about losing a bunch of ped and they don't fully know why. I'm telling you right now, I don't even have to do the test just to tell you because I've done it. Like, I think this is my third time doing this, like, in 7 years. I don't, like, because one of the times I did this, I actually got a hit on the first hit. I got a hit on the first hit, and then I dropped 50 ped of probes after that and didn't get a single hit. So if anyone tries telling you, hey, just stand in one spot and just keep mining, clearly they are either trolling or they want you to lose ped. So we're already down to 21 ped. And I think it's kind of interesting because, like, when I normally do my mining runs and I do a video just mining with 50 ped like I normally do, I mean, the run sometimes takes between 20 to 30 to 40 minutes sometimes. And doing it like this, we're only like 6 minutes in, roughly, right now into this recording, and we've already almost blown through 50 ped and lost an enhancer for literally no reason to just keep doing this. Anyway, I wanted to do this because I'm still getting comments to this day. Not many anymore. They were kind of a lot more 6, 7, 8 years ago. Even on social media and stuff, people saying, "Hey, you're wasting a lot of time just running around dropping probes when you can just stand in one spot." And I'm here to kind of break that myth because I know it's false and not true at all. And based on what you're seeing here, I think it's pretty clear that there's more of a strategy to mining than just standing there and mining or getting lucky or, whatever. Now, who knows? We might go and do the second run and we might barely get anything. Who knows? Maybe this was just mined out. Might have to blow another 50 pet if that is the case, but don't really want to because I'm kind of betting on hopefully making this 50 ped back in the next run. Probably won't happen, but it would be really nice if it did. But as you can see, I'm in the same land area that I'm always in when I make mining videos. I'm standing in the same spot. We didn't get a single thing except for some skills, and even still, those were only about 4 skill gains. So really no benefit to doing this at all. And if anyone tells you that this is the way to mine, they have to be trolling. Because there's no way anyone that's been playing this game for any amount of time would ever say that that's a good idea, especially if they're a miner. And I've been mining since I started playing this game. Mining was like the first profession I ever tried and did. And yeah, and then I kind of went back and forth between mining and hunting. But now, let's get into the second part of the run. Now, I will say I can see why if people do genuinely believe that, see, we already got a hit. But if people do genuinely believe that standing in one spot to mine is a good idea, they gotta either be trolling or thinking of it from just a time perspective. Because just like you saw, we went through 50 ped in like 6 or 7 minutes, like easily. In this video edited down, it's probably going to be like 3 minutes that we went through that 50 ped. So like, I can see it why, if people genuinely believe it, assuming that they're genuinely thinking it's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, you're going to cut down the time by 5 times, you know? A 25, 30, 40-minute mining run turns into a 5-minute mining run, And then doing that, you can drop 500, you know, 500 ped down, get absolutely nothing, maybe one thing. Because generally how this works is if you drop a probe and you find something and you drop another one, you're not gonna find anymore because you're overlapping. And it's pretty well known in Entropia and in the mining community amongst miners, at least in this game, that you don't want overlap when you're mining. And also just now, as I'm mining the way I normally would now, you know you got a double drop. But in the mining arena of Entropia, anyone that mines will tell you you don't want overlap. Overlap is not good. That's the root of all losses when it comes to mining. Well, not all losses, but most losses when it comes to mining. Because if you can drop spaced away and a good amount away, you can hit a line of claims over and over and over like you've seen in a bunch of different videos. Um, and it's just, if you're just standing in one spot, you're just overlapping over and over, but you're not only overlapping over and over, you're overlapping in the same spot over and over. And it doesn't matter if it's 50 ped, 500 ped, 1,000 ped, 10 million ped. it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference at all. You're just going to keep finding nothing. Like I said, if you do find something, it'll be on the first drop, and then after every drop after that, you are guaranteed to find nothing. And that's why I think that anyone that says that has to be trolling, or they just don't know what they're talking about, or they think it's a good idea. See another double drop, and they're just pissed because they're barely getting anything back, or something. I don't know. I don't know. But the whole point of me even wanting to do this in the first place is just because I have seen that said way too many times. Like, it's actually kind of weird how many times I've seen that remark, not just like in my videos or comments, but just in general. Like, I think I've heard it probably 7 or 8 different times from 7 or 8 different people where it's like, oh yeah, you just stand there and mine. There was actually even a stream I literally watched um a while ago where someone, I forget who it was, but it was someone, and they literally had like 1,000 ped that they were mining with, and I think 500 ped was like within like 20 meters. So like they're like dropping over and over within 20 meters, like not just within 20 meters of each other, like within like a 20-meter area, like, or radius, like they weren't moving at all. They were just kind of like standing there, and then they would maybe take like a few steps in one direction and then keep dropping and get like, it was kind of hard to watch. I'm not going to lie. It was kind of hard to watch. And I'm just like yelling at my screen like like that's $100 just gone, like for no reason at all. And then once that mining run's done, within the same 3 hour stream, they're depoting like another 1,000 ped too, or not depoting, but like pulling out 1,000 more ped from storage. And I'm like, bro, you might as well just stop. Like, you might as well just stop. Like, you're not gonna get anything that way. And I think somehow there's a consensus that it doesn't really matter where you drop. And that's like 100% not true. I've done so many videos talking about this. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Somewhere in the card, I might try to locate one of those videos and you can go check that out. But location matters. Location matters, whether you're on a land area or just on like another part of Calypso that might not be a land area, or whether you're on Calypso versus Arcadia versus anywhere else. Like, location matters, and spacing matters, and how far your drops are matter. All that matters. Um, and I know there's a handful of people that disagree, which is fine. That's always gonna kind of be a thing. I know most people that watch my stuff and other people's stuff, they usually agree with what we're kind of talking about. Um, but there's like this handful that is very adamant to some degree for some reason that you're better off blowing 50 ped in 5 minutes versus potentially getting that 50 ped back in 20 to 30 minutes, right? And that's another thing I don't fully understand either, because when I started playing this game, like I was like, I just want to get to a point where I can play for like an hour or two, get some ped back so that I can play for maybe another hour or two the next day. And when I see things like what we're talking about, that's almost like the opposite of it, right? Like, you're almost trying to spend as much as you can in the shortest amount of time. And I mean, if that's kind of your goal, I highly recommend slot machines instead, or anything like that, really. Table games, sports betting. I mean, if you're going to treat this like a casino, you might as well just jump on, stake or dual bits or something, dude. Like, you're better off going to an actual casino if you want to gamble. Because this is not really for that. Like, you're never going to be able to take a gamble in this where you can 10x, 20x, 100x, 1000x, or even 10,000x. It's never going to happen at all. Not even close. Like, that's why I say, like, if you want to take massive risks and just you know do things in Entropia that are kind of absent-minded, you're probably better off just spinning slots. And I kind of don't like saying that, but I mean, it's kind of true. Like, if you're looking for a 10x, 100x, 1000x, 10,000x, it's not going to come from Entropia. It's not going to happen. Dang, I didn't realize my extractor was low either, and I have nothing to repair it with. I was not prepared for this. Do I have another one? Oh, I do have another one. We're going to use this guy now. All right, cool. So we were prepared for this. All right, so we got our new extractor out. Anyway, Entropia is a slow grind, not just in levels and or anything, but even with returns, right? You're not going to get the fast returns. Even if you hit a global, it's still not a fast return. I know some of you are going to lose it if I don't pick this up, so I'm going to pick this up, but I'm not going to make a habit of it. As it is, I don't like, because the main reason I don't really even bother picking up fruit is just because I don't really do anything with it. I'm not a free player, but I like to try to keep a clean storage, so I try not to put too much stuff in it that I'm not really going to use anything with, but that's besides the point. So, yeah, I just think it's weird. Um and then when you kind of like have the proof, whether it's in videos or just kind of explaining like, hey, this is why that's not going to work, or this is why, you're spending 500 ped in 10, 15 minutes and then getting, like, if you're lucky, like 50 ped out of it, which is 10%. Which, when it comes to mining and hunting at this point, I don't think I've gotten a 10% return of what I've spent since I was at like level 3. But like, if you're getting 10%, you need to reassess what you're doing, assuming that you're not brand new. Like, if you're level 1 miner or hunter, level 2, 3, maybe even 10 hunter, maybe. Definitely not 10 miner, but maybe 10 hunter, you really shouldn't be getting a 10% return regardless. And, even if you get a global, even if you get a global and you get a 5, 6, 700 ped global, 1,000 ped global, chances are, in order to have gotten that global, chances are you're probably in the hole more than that global's worth. So, like, if you get 1,000 ped global, chances are you're probably in the hole 2, 3, 4, 5,000 ped. And that's why it's kind of important to track that stuff. That's why I prefer to do 50 ped runs, because then I know what my loss is. I know what the expected loss plus return is, and I can kind of gauge it that way versus just going all in, or maybe not even all in, but like just going ham, trying to, get that 1,500 whatever global, because the global system isn't like a jackpot. And I think a lot of people look at it like a jackpot, and it's not. The global system is literally to balance out your losses. So if you're getting globals, the reason for that is because you're at a loss, and most likely a significant loss. And if it's a significant global, it's probably a significant loss. I am confident in saying that if you mine efficiently and kind of the way that I do, I can, well, I shouldn't say that. What I will, because it depends, right? Like, if you're spending, I don't even know what the possibility of spending per drop is when it comes to the higher levels. Like, who knows? There might be a miner out there that, it's like 10 ped per drop for all I know. But assuming that, you're not using something that's like 20 ped per drop or something ridiculous, which I don't even know if that's a thing, chances are you're not going to hit a global if you're mining efficiently. Now, if, you know, you're spending 20 and getting back 20 per drop ish, then yeah, a 50 ped, maybe 100 ped global, I can see that. But like, you're not going to be spending 1 ped, 2 ped, maybe even 10 ped, assuming that's a thing. Because again, outside of kind of the miners that I've owned, I don't really know anything about other miners. So like the higher level stuff. Plus they're really hard to find, so it's really hard to kind of see their stats. But you're never going to drop for 2 ped and get even 100 ped global unless you are in the hole at least 100 ped, 200, 3, 4, 5, etc. And that's kind of how the global system works. And I kind of want to destroy that stigma, I guess, that the global system is like a jackpot, because it's not. It's absolutely not. Um, I used to get globals quite often, and I used to go for globals quite often. And the reason why I was getting those globals, and I was actually getting more globals hunting than mining, just because I'm a worse hunter than miner. But when I would get a global, I'd be pumped. But then when I was kind of looking back at the spreadsheets, I'm like, wait, I've only recovered half of what I've lost from that global. Like, what's going on? And then once I kind of started figuring things out and then started mining differently and mining like this, I never hit globals. Like, I never hit mining globals. But every time I finish off a run, I'm anywhere between 5 ped in the hole or 5 ped up, somewhere in between there. And then on a bad run, it can be 10, 20, 30 loss out of 50. Usually it's not 30. Something really has to go wrong for it to be 30. Typically it's about 15 to 20 on a really bad run. So, but I can see why people would want to just stand there and mine and think that's going to be no different than what I'm doing. Because, in 5 minutes you can spend 50 ped. In probably 10 or 15 minutes, you might be able to spend 500 ped. But it's that kind of thing where it's not like the more you spend, the better off you're going to be. If anything, spending less per run and doing fewer runs in between can actually be a little more profitable. Now, don't get me wrong, there's cons and stuff to that too, right? Because you're probably only playing for 30 minutes to an hour, and then you might not play the rest of the day. Then you might skip a day, and you might only be playing for like 4 or 5 hours a week, right? And if you're doing 50 ped runs, you're really not going to get anything out of that. But it's a lot better than spending 250 in a day and getting like 50 out of it. And that's assuming that you get that much out of it. If And that's assuming you're also standing there just mining over and over. Hunting's a little different. And I also kind of feel like anyone that does kind of mention that, oh, location when mining doesn't matter, space between drops don't matter, which again, MindArc themselves has literally said these things, that is a thing. The spacing does matter. That's where I heard it from in the first place, was the developers themselves. So kind of what I'm basing it off of. Um, but because I feel like a lot of people that might believe that if you just stand there and mine, it's fine. I feel like that has to be like a hunter's logic or something. Because when it comes to hunting, it doesn't matter as much. Like for hunting, for example, it's mostly mobs, right? Like hunting the right mobs is what matters. Like it doesn't matter what land area you're at, and I do think when it comes to hunting that it does matter a little bit versus land area versus regular land versus, this part of the map fighting the same mobs as the other part of the map. I do think that there is kind of some differentiation there and that it could matter a little bit, but not nearly as much as it matters with mining. Um, you can stand in the same spot and kill off all the mobs, wait for them to respawn, and do it all over again. Do I think that's probably the most efficient way to do it? Probably not, because once you get through a lot of those mobs, you specifically, um, the loot does kind of taper from there. And that's just from what I've noticed as well. Like when I was doing the 700, well, attempting the 700 ped challenge, which I failed basically. I would mow through all those mobs myself. And then once they were respawning, I felt like the loot was kind of, it would start to taper off slightly. Not a whole lot, not really to where it's a huge deal, but it was noticeable enough, right? Like the first wave of the grouping, I would be getting, a whole variety of stuff. Um, when I was hunting those fowls. And then once they would respawn and I would do it again, I would kind of notice like, okay, now I'm not really getting um like those tiered device thingies. I forget what they're called. And I was like, I'm only getting like shrapnel now. I was like, I was getting like a variety before, paint cans, and now I'm getting mostly shrapnel now and not even like markup loot. So I do think based on just my experience that it does matter still when it comes to hunting a little bit when it comes to that. Um, Another thing I did notice is that if you're hunting around other people and you're the better hunter as far as skills go and like equipment and things like that, and you're able to take more out faster than the people around you, you can actually do better that way as well. But that's kind of out of scope at this point. But I feel like that has to be a mining I feel like that has to be a hunting type of logic. Um if there's anyone out there that does genuinely believe that standing in one place and dropping 50 ped worth of probes is the same as running around and doing it. Um it's just clearly, as you can see, that's not the case. Overall, we got 0 drops standing still, and we're at least getting drops, double drops, and getting something back by moving around. And that's kind of the whole point of the video and the whole reason why I wanted to make this, just because, you know, I've gotten that comment and seen those comments multiple times about mining, standing in one spot, things like that. And it's just not true at all. And then at the end of the day, people that do it, like spend 500 ped, stand in one spot, and then just spam E. I mean, yeah, they're pissed, and I can see why they're pissed, because you're not getting anything out of it because you're not doing it the way that it should be. You know, I got 3 drops with 2 probes moving around. I don't know how you can argue, much more than that. I have so many videos where I prove that, efficiently mining and not overlapping works. And despite all those videos and showing it over and over and the different kind of strategies that I've figured out throughout the years and all that, with all that proof and videos, I still get people coming to me saying, hey, um, you're just wasting time. You're wasting other people's time. Just stand in one spot and spam E. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Um, it, it's not going to work. It's never going to work. Maybe if you're like, maybe if you have a high level miner, maybe if you have an amp, maybe if you're on FOMA, maybe if you're, level 55, Maybe, maybe because of the variances in depth, maybe you could get away with that in certain instances at certain levels with certain equipment. But for most of us who aren't, level 150, that's not gonna work at all. Um, and that's kind of the whole point of this. Well, not the point of this channel, but that's kind of the point of these Entropia videos too. Is there's plenty of videos out there with who of people who are elites or really high level that can take on really high level mobs, do really high level hunting, all that's out there, and there's plenty of that, I feel like. Um, but my point here with these Entropia videos is kind of just to show like the lower level, newer people, or even maybe not so much newer people, but just, the level 15s, 20s, 10s, you know, what can be achieved with that, because it can be kind of discouraging watching a level 50, hunt level 30s, 40s, etc., or get these massive freaking claims because they're spending, a ton per drop because, they're a level 60 miner or something. It's kind of hard when you're at level 10 or 20 to kind of, figure out if you're on the right track. You know what I mean? And that's kind of my purpose of making these Entropia videos because, I'm in that boat. I'm not that high level miner or hunter or anything like that, so I feel like I kind of have something of value to give when it comes to Entropia because I can kind of be like, okay, as a low level, this is what I figured out. Give this a shot. This is kind of the path that you might want to take if these are the certain results you're looking for, versus watching, a level 60 drop a probe and get, a 300 ped drop. You know what I mean? Um, and I don't see a whole lot of like newer videos like that. It was a lot more prevalent back in the day, but they're still out there and they're still coming out. And I'm not saying those videos are bad because, you know, when you're at level 10, it's kind of fun, seeing like a high level, miner, hunter, whatever, you know, fighting higher level mobs or, getting higher value claims and things like that. But the downside to that is, that's not really the reality for the beginner or the newer person or the low level like me. And then it becomes really hard to gauge if you're on the right path or not, because of that. And that's kind of the whole reason why I kind of do this Entropia stuff in the first place. So we are dropping roughly around the same area right now, but it's not like standing still. We're still kind of moving around, trying to get some distance. We want to be at least around 65, 70, do another drop, and let's see if we can get two more. But yeah, there's another one. Um, another single drop. And since we only have one left, why not? We'll just end it right here with one more drop. Why not? Seems like a good spot for multiple drops, so we'll just do it again. This one's probably going to be nothing. Yeah. Yeah. So now we mined it out, and that's about that. But yeah, unless you're doing like a grid pattern, you're watching your spacing, you have enough pet on you, I mean, ultimately you're never going to really um mine everything out in an area anyway. You're gonna miss stuff, you're gonna miss claims that you could have gotten but you didn't drop there. It's just gonna happen unless like you're really strategic about it. You got the ped, you're doing grid patterns, you're your spacing's good, all that. But anyway, moral of this video here is just, you know if anyone tells you, hey, just stand in one spot, go anywhere, doesn't matter where you go, because that's another big comment I get a lot too, is that, it doesn't matter if you're at a land area or if you're at Ashy or anywhere on Calypso. And I highly disagree with that as well. There are spots on the map, I'll show you. Right here, Fort Pandora, I don't mine any of this. I never mine any of this because it doesn't perform. Over here, at least for me, doesn't perform. I've never tried up here. This would be an interesting area to try. I don't think I've ever dropped a probe here. I think I've only hunted here and there with weapons that I shouldn't have been using in the first place. But that's another thing I highly disagree with. Location does matter because if you look at Little Big Mining Log, or if you ever have looked at Little Big Mining Log, you know that it lists the different areas on Calypso where you can get specific ores and end matters and the percentage of chance to drop based on their location. And if the location where you mine at doesn't matter, Little Big Mining Log would be pointless, useless, inaccurate, and it wouldn't even exist. So when it comes to that, I also disagree with, and that's another big consensus a lot of people have is they just mine anywhere, and that's also not the best idea if you want success or efficiency, or to at least try to get your initial ped back so that you can go out and do more mining runs and play for longer without depositing more, because that's kind of my whole thing when it comes to the Entropia Universe stuff. I'm all about, you know, trying to get back the most you possibly can so that you can play for longer without spending more. And that's probably bad for Mind Arc, but it's good for the player base to some extent anyway. And then also, if you're, transacting with the economy, using the auction, things like that, you're still kind of helping things out a little bit, even though it might not be as big of a help as like the Ubers out there spending tens of thousands potentially for, I don't even know, yearly, monthly, I don't even know. I'm probably never gonna get to Uber status regardless, so, and that's kind of fine. I'm pretty happy with the way my character is currently and the way that I'm able to mine currently. I'm pretty satisfied with all that. Um, so let's see what we got out of this run. Now, we know the first run when we were just standing there dropping probes, we got 0. So we already know we're in the whole 50 ped. Already we know that. So, let's grab our rusty dusty thingamajig, and then we can open that up. And let's see what we came back with after doing a 100 ped run where 50 ped was just standing in one spot and mining, and then going through the rest of the land area, mining the way we normally do, and then seeing what we got out of that. And I knew this video was going to be a net negative anyway, but I felt like it was kind of, see, so this is what I'm talking about. If we did not do the first run, and if we just came out here with 50 ped, like we normally do, which by the way, we did have a couple enhancers break, so we need to go and add that to it. Here's the thing. If we didn't do the first run, if we just came out here with 50 ped, mined the way that we normally do, or that we normally would, knowing that we need our spacing, if we get a double drop, try to drop again and see if you can get 2 more, which we did, and it worked out pretty well at the end. And everything we know about mining and, how to be efficient with it. And then, of course, the F106 helps too. We would be up 2 ped. So I think it's just funny, especially when I get it in comments. I think it's funny. Or on social media when people say, "Hey, I saw your video and, I don't agree with the overlap. I don't agree with the location. I don't agree that you even need to run around and drop probes. You can just stand still and it's no difference." I just totally disagree with that. And I hope this video can kind of at least highlight that a little bit for at least some of you that may or may not have heard that theory before. But there's a huge difference between just standing still and dropping probes and running around and dropping probes. And it's still not even that simple because then you got to think about the location. It's like, okay, what am I going for? You know, do I want to focus on crude? Do I want to focus on this? Do I want, to go for copper? If you're going for copper or anything really, then you should be mining in a location that actually has that resource that can be mined. And that's kind of where Little Big Mining Log at least used to come in. Not sure how accurate it is now, but I know back in the day that was a huge resource for miners, and I used it a lot as well. And I'll still look at it here and there, just making the assumption that it's kind of the same, but usually it just gives me an idea on places and areas to try mining, just to see if it could be a good area based on what I get, how much pet I come out with at the end of the run, that kind of thing. Um, But if you have the right strategies, you know what to do, you keep upgrading your equipment, and especially if you're using unlimited equipment. Like for me, when it comes to mining, I prefer using unlimited equipment because it's easier to profit that way, right? Like I've already had to repair this F-106 like once or twice at least. And it's like, if you're spending, like, let's say 100 or 200 ped, and then maybe that's not even including the markup on a finder, and if it all depends on what you come back with, right? And I do know, well, I have heard actually that certain limited miners that are really high level actually produce a lot, from what I've heard. I haven't been able to test that yet for multiple reasons. Number one, I'm still low level, and number two, I just can't even find those miners on the market. And when they do come on the market, you have to check every day. Like for example, in order for me to get this F-106, I had to check auction every day for I think a month before I saw it pop up on auction. And since it was the only one on auction and I really wanted it, I didn't even care about the price. So when it comes to these even higher level miners that are limited, I mean, who knows how often those appear either in auction or elsewhere. So I haven't been able to test that myself, but from what I've heard from higher level players, miners, etc., which does make sense to me, and I don't doubt this at all, that, you might spend 500 plus, maybe even 1,000 plus on a limited miner, but it can produce like 2 to 3 times that value. And if that is the case, then limited, I can see how limited miners can also be just as valuable as unlimited. Hunting I think is a little different, but I'm not going to go fully into that. But anyway, I've been rambling too long now. Let's get this video done. So yeah, anyway, guys, I hope that helps. I hope if anyone ever tells you something like that, like, hey, just stand in one spot and mine, hopefully you don't listen because you saw this video and you're like, yeah, that's definitely bad. Um, but I just kind of wanted to visually illustrate and compare what I do versus what I've been told that yields the same results, right? Like I was literally told one time that if I just stood in one place in mind, I would get the same results that I was getting from the way I mine currently, which is running around, spacing, all that stuff. And I just really, really do not think that is the case at all. And I kind of wanted to make a video visualizing that, comparing it. That way, if anyone else sees those comments or hears that somewhere else, now you kind of have seen the compare and contrast of one versus the other, and now you can kind of make the decision on which route you want to go down when it comes to that. But anyway, guys, that's the video. I'm going to end it here. First video this week. We should have a full week of videos coming this week and then next week. And then from there, I'm not 100% sure how things are going to go. But I'm going to just kind of play it by ear for now. But anyway, guys, that's the video. Drop a like on this video if you like the video. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.